It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing. I'm so happy with this tool. So this is a very, very interesting tool. Can do some amazing things. Like I was blown away when I saw this. And so this model has 62.4 million runs. And so that is how I built this very, very simple app. AI is currently one of the hottest topics in the tech industry. Over the past several months, it has evolved to a point where it is relatively simple and easy to build mind-blowing apps. While many people have heard about OpenAI's GPT-3 and DALL-E image generation, not as many are aware of the abundance of open source tools based on open source AI models. However, one problem that has existed with these tools is that they don't have an API that can be easily accessed by other apps. Thankfully, a platform has emerged that solves this problem by allowing developers to wrap any app with APIs that can be accessed by any other app. This opens up a whole new world for no-code tools to build new and amazing apps. In today's video, I will be showing you how you can quickly and easily build mind-blowing AI apps without any code at all. I'll also demonstrate a quick proof of concept app that shows you how to build these AI apps. They're a bit different than regular apps. This is going to be an action-packed video, and by the end, I'll give you some implementation tips and ideas that I'm sure you'll find very, very valuable. Now, before we get started, as always, the apps that I'm going to be building and demonstrating to you guys are going to be available to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you're going to find the link to the Patreon page in the description below. So here's OpenAI. I'm sure most of you have heard about. This is probably one of the most well-known AI apps, tools out there. They have an API that you can use. They're also behind ChatGPT, which doesn't have an API just yet. Here we are at DALL-E 2, which is a new AI system that can create realistic images and art from a description in natural language. Really, really amazing tool. You simply type a sentence, a phrase, and it generates an image. Very, very innovative tool. You simply type a phrase, a description, and it generates an image. An amazing tool. But what many of you might not know is there are tons and tons of AI tools that leverage various open source models. So for instance, here's an example of something called countable diffusion. Okay, however you pronounce it. And this is a Bach choral generation and harmonization. Okay, so it's able to generate Bach chorals unconditionally or harmonize melodies or parts of melodies. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting tool. And what these tools do is they can generate images, they can do text to speech, they can generate music. There's so many very, very interesting, innovative tools. But what happens is that a lot of them don't have APIs that you can use. You can typically use them inside of your apps. Like if you're building an app with code, like with JavaScript, TypeScript, maybe even Flutter, they have a library that you can use, but they don't have an API that allows you to use this with something like FlutterFlow or some other no-code builder. Well, I'm here to tell you that now you can do it. There are actually other platforms and other tools that allow these developers to take their code and then wrap it around with an API layer and a bunch of other things that allows other people, such as yourself and myself, to go out and actually build apps on top of these tools. Okay, so there are a bunch of tools that allow you to do that. One tool is called Lightning AI. Okay, this is this tool right here: train, deploy, and ship AI products lightning fast. Okay, so you can take various AI tools and actually deploy them on here. Another really well-known tool is called Modal, right? It's modal.com. It's your end-to-end stack for cloud compute. Okay, Modal lets you run or deploy machine learning models, massively parallel compute jobs, task queues, web apps, and much more without your own infrastructure. So this is yet another tool that allows you to take some piece of code that does something and wrap stuff around it, make it into an infrastructure, make it so other people can use it. But the tool I'm most excited about is called Replicate. It's at replicate.com, and you can simply visit replicate.com and you can click on this Explore tab here. And what you're going to see is some amazing AI models that can do some amazing things. Like, I was blown away when I saw this. So take a look at some of these models here. We have this model right here that I just showed you previously. Well, it's on here that you can use it. You can start using it right now if you want, but you have low light enhancements and the blurring in the dark. Look at this one. It takes an image that looks something like this, turns it into that. We have stable diffusion, which is a latent text to image diffusion model capable of generating photorealistic images given any text input. And so this model has 62.4 million runs. Okay, very popular model. But that is not all. There's a bunch of other, stable diffusion to real-time music generation. So you can create music from maybe images or something else. Here we have Whisper, which is probably the best speech to text generator, right? It's an amazing model. It can recognize, speech with background noise. It can recognize almost any accent out there. Really amazing service. I'm actually using this model for a bunch of other projects that I'm working on. So this model is amazing and you can use it as well. And then here we have, this is generate Pokemon from a text description. Okay, how cool is that? Now, they have a bunch of collections here. So they have diffusion models, they have image to text, super resolution, style transfer, machine learning makeovers, image restoration, text to image, and then you have a bunch of popular models. So here you have clip features, you have face restoration, stable diffusion, another face restoration, image restoration using, swim transformer. You don't have to worry about what this means. You just, take a look at the picture and you can kind of get an idea. So tons and tons of different models, tons and tons of different things that you can do. Now, let's take a quick look at some of these models and let's take a look at how this tool works. And then we're going to jump into FlutterFlow, which is a really good no-code builder, my favorite. And I'm going to show you how you can build amazing apps using this platform and using these various models to do amazing things. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at this model, Stable Diffusion, very popular model. Everybody's talking about it, does amazing things. And so when you click on one of these models, you're going to be on a page that looks something like this. And so here you have the name of the model, you have a description, you have a bunch of other things. And here you have a demo. Okay, so we can test this model out. So this is the prompt that generated this image. Okay, so, if you leave everything on defaults, and we have a bunch of settings here, you could specify the prompt, you can specify things you don't want to see in the output, width and height. This is prompt strength, a bunch of other parameters here. But let's say we leave it at default and we just hit submit. Okay, so it's starting out and it's running. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time. But, the infrastructure has powerful computers, so you don't have to wait a lot, right? So it's almost done. All right. So it finished, and this is what it generated. Now let's try something else. An astronaut riding a turtle on a Saturn. On Saturn, HD dramatic lightning detail. Okay, so let's just leave that. Let's try this out. I've never tried this before. Let's see how this works. Okay, so it's working. All right, there we have it. So there you have an astronaut riding on a turtle, which looks like some kind of a planet. Okay, so you can run it again. You can change some of the parameters, but you gotta admit, I mean, this looks really good. You can download it. Looks amazing, right? This is just one model, okay? So here we have a bunch of examples, right? So I can click on this example here, and that looks like it's surrealist style, okay? So it says here, modern Apple watches with colorful HD displays in a surrealist style. This is kind of what you get. So you can look at an example and tweak it and have another image that's going to be generated. Okay, so this is just one model. Let's go back. Let's take a look at what else we got. How about image to text? Okay, so how about this one right here? All right, so this is the input here, and it's actually generating text. It's describing this image. How cool is that? A woman sitting on the beach with a dog. So, and you can run it here if you want, just to kind of see if it works. And there we have it, a woman sitting on the beach with a dog. And you can put You can upload, you can drag and drop another image. You can take a photo with your webcam, and it's going to do, its best job in trying to kind of understand the image and giving you a description of the image. Very, very cool. How's that? And what else do we have? We have image captioning. We have more image captioning. Then we also have ML makeovers, image restoration. Well, then we have Whisper here. This is one of my favorite AI tools. I use it for a couple of other projects. And so here you have input, which is audio, and you give it a model. You can pick tiny, base, etc. So the bigger the model, the longer it's going to take, but the more accurate it's going to be. And then you have language. You can specify language, or it's going to auto detect the language as well. And so let's leave it at default. So let's go ahead and run it. And so it's starting off, and it starts running this model on this 52-second audio clip here. And there it is. It's done. It took like a couple of seconds, actually. And so this is kind of what it detected. Okay, and it even has punctuations, periods, commas. It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing. I'm so happy with this tool. Detected language is English. All right. And so obviously, as you can see, there are tons of apps that you can build. There are tons of ideas, image to text, text to image, audio to text. You can even do, text to audio if you want, with some of the music generation models, right? Real-time music generation here. Let's say you want to build an app that leverages this. It's nice and all to be able to kind of use this replicate.com product and kind of play around with it. But let's say you want to build an app on top of this. Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to pick the model that you want to run. So for instance, let's say you want to use this model, right? Very, very popular model. And you want to build something like this. You want to do, diffusion. You want to do a text to image generator. So you're going to click on that. And once you're in here, you can click on APIs. Okay. And it's basically telling you how you can use this platform inside of your apps. Now, initially, this is set to Python. Okay. We're not building Python apps. So we're going to pick curl. Okay. And so it's telling us grab an API token and authenticate by setting it as an environment variable. Now, you need to grab an API token, and the way you're going to do it is you're going to create your free account. I'm using a free account right now. I haven't paid a cent for this. And once you log in with your free account, you can open this page up and you're going to be on this account page. So this is my token right here. You're obviously going to have a different token, but once you have your token, you're going to go back here, and then it says, then call the HTTP API directly with curl. This is exactly what you want, because once you see HTTP API, you know that you can build apps inside of FlutterFlow or pretty much any other no-code builder that leverage this. Now, you don't want to go out and start building your app in FlutterFlow just yet. You always want to test this request first, because you want to get a feel of what kind of response you're going to be getting. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into my tool called Paw, and you don't have to use this tool. You can use any tool that you want. There are tons of other tools out there. There's Postman, which has a free plan, generous free plan. There's a bunch of other tools. And what we want to do is we want to send this request here just to see what kind of response are we going to get. We need to make sure that we know the response so that we can build an app around it. We want to cover our bases. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create a new API request. Okay, so this is my new API request right here. And as you can see, it's a post request, right? So we're going to come here. We're going to pick post, and then we're going to paste this URL here. And then we're going to set up our request. So we need headers first. So as you can see, we have two headers here. This -H stands for headers. So we're going to copy that. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to paste this header. Most of the time, you're going to have two headers. You're going to have your token authorization header, and you're going to have your application JSON, because our request is going to be in the JSON format. Next thing you want to do is you want to copy this D, right? This thing is the request. So we're going to copy this right here. You don't want to copy these enclosing quotes, these single quotes. You want to copy the stuff in between. Then we're going to go into body. We're going to select text right here. We're going to paste it. So now we have this request. Now, of course, we need to make sure we have our API token. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to copy this token. And remember, your token is going to be different, obviously. We're going to come back here, and I'm going to replace this. Okay. So now we have our headers. We have our body. we have the version, we have the prompt, we are ready to make a request. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to issue this request. And this is the response right here. Now, the important thing to understand here is, remember, when we ran that model on the UI, we did not get a response right away. We sent a request and it started work and we didn't get a response right away. That's called an asynchronous request. We are sending an asynchronous request. That means that we sent a request, it runs it, but it doesn't run immediately. It's running out there, but we need to fetch the response. So this is kind of what the response is. And it's telling us that in order to get the status of our request, to see where we at, is it 1%, 10%, how far ahead are we in? Like how much, just to see how much have we completed it so far. And so here we have a link that we can follow in order to see the status of our initial request. Obviously, it's probably finished by now. So if I click this, we see that status is succeeded. And here it's displaying the status, right? So if you would have executed that status check right away, you probably would have seen like a part of it, maybe 10%, because that is kind of what it generates. But now it has finished, status is succeeded, and we have the result, which is in this output. So if we take that and we copy it and then we open this up, we're going to see the generated image. Okay, this image is the one we generate. Now, if we would have ran it again, we would probably get a different image. So let's run this request again. And this time I'm going to click on this get and I'm going to see what's happening. Okay, and so here we see status is processing and now it's showing the status here. I'm going to click again and now we're seeing 52%. If I click again, I'm seeing 76%. So almost done, 78%. It's still processing. Let's try again. And it is succeeded. Okay, so now this has 100%. And we have the output. So let's go ahead and copy this, open it here, and maybe we'll get a different image. Okay, so we got a slightly different image. Still a cool image. Really, really cool AI model, because you can have amazing images in any style. Amazing models. And so it was really good that we tested out the APIs in a tool before we actually went into FlutterFlow or another no-code builder and started to build the app. Because as you just saw, this is actually an asynchronous request. We did not get a response right away. Well, we got a response, but we did not get the image right away. We got like a response that tells us, hey, go here for the status, go here to cancel, but we did not get an image right away. And that is how all of these models going to work. They cannot give you a response right away. They give you a link with the status that you can control your process, okay? But you can't get the response right away, whether you're doing, speech to text with Whisper, whether you're doing something else. They're going to take time, but they're going to give you a link that you can follow the status. And that is the app that you need to build. So once you see something like this, you have to realize that this is completely different than, all the apps that we've built before, pretty much, okay? Because all the apps have been synchronous. This is asynchronous, okay? And so now I'm going to go into FlutterFlow and I'm going to show you an app that I built that leverages this platform. All right, so here I'm inside of FlutterFlow, and this is a proof of concept app that I built to do exactly what we did on the UI on replicate.com to do stable diffusion. Basically, we're going to enter a prompt and then it's going to go out and generate an image for us. So let me first run this app just to show you how it works. And this is a cool app. There's some really cool techniques there. And then we're going to jump back into FlutterFlow and I'm going to show you exactly how you can build an app like this. So we're going to start a test environment right here. All right, so here's the app. And on this first page, it's asking us to describe the image. It's telling us to input the prompt. So let's go ahead and copy that same prompt that we used on the UI and replicate.com. So we're going to come back here. We're going to select this, copy, and paste it in here. Okay. Now we're going to click on generate image. Okay, and now it's processing. Okay, notice that nice cool effect. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can do that, but we need that because we are waiting for that process to finish. We're waiting for that asynchronous process to finish, and now that it has finished, it's displaying this image in this placeholder. Okay, and that's actually a pretty cool image. You gotta say, let's try something else. We're gonna click on run again. Now, this time, let's try something new. So maybe an astronaut riding a camel on Saturn in Van Gogh style. Okay, let's click on generate image. And now it's processing again. Okay, processing. So we're giving the user a visual indication that it's still running and it's done. And there's the image. This is the image that it generated. Not bad, not bad at all. Obviously, if you run it again, you're going to get a different image, etc., etc. All right. So now let's jump into FlutterFlow and let me show you how you can build an app like this. Now, the first thing that you have to do is set up your API. So we're going to come in here and I have two APIs set up. I have this first API that sends a request, and then I have a second API that checks on that request that we run over and over again until we get a success. So this first API, it's a very simple API. We have our URL, we have two headers, and then we have the body. We're sending this version here, the standard version from replicate.com, and then we have the prompt, and this prompt is actually a variable. Okay, this prompt here is one of the variables here. So if you go into response and test, we can actually, set a prompt. Just do the same one we just did. And if I do test API, I get a response, but it's running in the background. Remember, it's running in the background. So we get a response. But what we need to capture here is we need to capture a couple of important things. The first thing that we need to capture is the ID, the request ID. That is because later on we can specify that request ID in order to get the status of what's happening with our request, okay? So if we go into recommend and we select this ID, but we also select something called URLs get. And remember, this URLs get, we actually had that before. So remember, if we issue a request, we have this URLs and we have this get URL and cancel URL. Well, the cancel is to cancel a request. To get is to get the status. That is kind of what we need because we need to send the second request to get the statuses, all right? So once we capture these two, we save them in a JSON path. So we have request ID and URLs get that we need to execute again. And then we have that second request that we use to check up on that first request. Okay, so the second request, we just pass an ID. The first request, it's a post request with nothing here, right? No parameters here. While the second request is a get request now, and we're passing this ID as a parameter. So same headers, and we have a variable called ID, which is the ID that we got in that first request. Because it gave us the ID of the request, so we can check up on it. And then we can go to response and test. We pass this ID and I can test this API call and it's going to be successful because it's one of the old requests. So it says status succeeded and we have an output. An output is a list of different URLs, but in this case, it's just one item here. And now we can go into recommended and we're going to select the things that we want. So I saved logs in case I want to display like another status as well, but we're not using it. And I also selected this output and I selected the status. Okay, so the status is not a list, it's just a string, whereas this output is a list because it's surrounded by square brackets. So we need to make sure that we select as a list. That way FlutterFlow will know to treat it as a list. So that way we can manipulate it easier, as I'm going to show you in just a second. So now we got these two requests set up and configured. We need to kind of build the app now. So we have two pages here. I have a login page, but I'm not using login right now. And on the first page, we are getting the prompt. We're asking the user, what do they want to do? Okay. So, we have this input field. We have a button here. If you open this button, we're doing a backend call. Now, if we succeeded here, I'm updating local state with a request ID, but that is not necessary. That is not important. I was doing that in order to see if the request ID is being saved correctly. You don't need to do that. But what we really need to do is we need to navigate to that second page and we need to pass the request ID. Okay, that's all we're doing on the first page. Now, the second page, this is where the magic happens. There's a lot of things going on the second page. The first thing that happens is that once we redirect the user to the second page, we immediately execute the second API call. Because remember, we have that first API call on the first page and it was successful. That is why we redirected the user. But now we need to keep checking on the status. So we keep checking on this on the request. And so the first thing we're doing is we're calling our second API, the second API that we set up. And that is where we're checking on the request. So we have ID here, right? Because we passed it from the first page. We need the ID. If it's successful, here we're checking if things have succeeded, meaning that it has finished. If it did, what I'm doing here is I'm setting the local state to an image or the result that we need to eventually display on the page. So here I'm doing update local state. We have an output image and I'm setting that image to this value here. Remember, we have this output here. That is what I'm setting it to. And if your output is text, maybe you're doing image to text, then you're going to have text. If your output is audio, maybe you're generating audio, then you're going to have audio. In my case, I'm doing text to image. And so my output is image. And so I have a local state that holds an image path that I'm setting it to. And then on the actual page, I'm pulling that variable from local state. That allows me to have automatic reactive behavior because I'm setting this rebuild current page here, okay? If it hasn't finished, meaning that the status is not succeeded, the status is processing or something else, we're going to be updating local state with those periods. Remember, we have those periods. And the way this works is that we have a text field that has a local state, and we are appending to it various periods. And so the first time we have one period, then the second time we have two periods. And that is why you're seeing that behavior. You're seeing that dynamic behavior, okay? So I have this field here, this local state called processing. And this processing is basically period. And so what I'm doing is I'm appending it, right? What I'm saying is set the local state, which is a text field called processing, to processing plus another period. So if it runs multiple times, you're going to see more and more periods, okay? And then we're saying navigate again to this page, meaning reload this page. And basically what I just implemented on this page is a loop, okay? In software development and programming, you can easily do that with a loop, but because in FlutterFlow, there is no current way of doing loops, that kind of behavior where we need to constantly poll, it's called polling. We're polling that request, that second request to see if it has finished. The way you can implement it is using this behavior on one page. You basically call it, you check if it succeeded, you check if the status is succeeded, if it finished, if it didn't finish, then you do some other behavior. And that is why if we come over here, we have the stack. And so right here, we have conditional visibility. We're saying it's not finished. In that case, what you want to do is you want to show text combination processing. And this is periods, those periods that get appended to one each other. This processing here, that's what we're doing inside in the actions behind the scenes. Otherwise, if it succeeded, status is succeeded, then just display this complete. Okay, and that's it. And this image here is loaded from our local state. Now, one thing that I noticed is that by default, it shows a broken image. And the way you can fix it is you can set conditional visibility on this image. So you can do something like this, condition, single condition, and you can come in here and you can go action outputs. You can say JSON body, JSON path, and you can do status, and then you can do status is succeeded. So status equal to, you can do specific value succeed. And so that way, this image widget will only display if status is set to succeeded. So we can also test this out right now just to show you that it works. So we're going to run this app. All right, so there's the app. Now let's try it out. We're going to paste the same prompt and we're going to do generate image. Okay, so now you're not seeing the image anymore. Okay, so let's wait. Okay, we're done. And now the image is generated. And obviously this UI is much cleaner and you can use the same pattern in many different situations as well. And so that is how I built this very simple app with a very nice and dynamic behavior. And remember, you can take this app and adapt it for pretty much all the models that you see on replicate.com. They all follow the same pattern. It's just sometimes you're going to have, text as an input, generating an image. Sometimes you're going to have an image as an input, maybe generating another image, or image generating another text, or image generating music, or music generating text. It's all going to be the same. It's just your inputs and outputs are going to be different. So you can take kind of the ideas that I have here and adapt it for your specific purpose. Now, a couple of thoughts in terms of how you can actually implement and build these apps. One way is obviously building a standalone app. So something that I did just now, of course, is going to have a bunch of other things. It's going to have maybe some text, maybe a login, maybe you're going to implement Stripe for payments. But yeah, one example is building an app that does just one thing. Another example is to build this AI functionality into a bigger app, into a more comprehensive, more complex app. So maybe you're going to have an app that does a bunch of other things, but inside of the app, it's going to do some kind of AI stuff. Or you can build an app that does various AI stuff, right? It doesn't need to do just one AI. You can build an app that's doing 5 things, right? So for instance, if you go back here, you have a lot of image stuff, right? So you have collections, you have a lot of image stuff. So you can build an app called like Image Gen or whatever. You could think of a cool name that has like 5 tabs, and a person can, do 5 things with image, or they can do, 5 different things with one image. It's really, really up to you. My point is, you don't have to build an app that does just one thing. Obviously, this could be part of something bigger and something greater. It's really limited by your imagination, right? Like, go crazy. Think of something cool, think of something innovative, and I'm sure there's going to be a model that's going to allow you to bring those dreams to realizations. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you are amazed, just like I am, by the possibilities out there, by the amount of great things that you can build, by the fact that you can combine AI with no code and easily build just incredible, amazing apps day and night that just do crazy stuff, just do mind-blowing things, because that was definitely my reaction when I first started to kind of play around with these things. And trust me, we're just scraping the top of the barrel here. There's so many things that you can do, and I'm going to be making more videos. But if this is something that's up your alley and you're interested in taking this thing further, you want to learn more about no code, you want to build amazing apps, you want to do great things, you want to do those things this year, or maybe you just want to build an app that you've been putting off for a very, very long time. It's not an AI app, it's not a exciting app, but it's a useful app. It's an app that's going to help a lot of people, or a certain subset of people, and you're excited about finally building that app, then you definitely want to consider becoming a member of my Patreon community. Not only will you get access to all the apps that I built, including this app and all the other apps that I built using FlutterFlow, as well as with other no-code builders, but you're also going to get a ton of other content such as Q&As, live streams, behind the scenes content, and my amazing masterclass series where I create deep dives on specific topics. The community votes for topics that they need further clarification on, and I go out and I build content exclusively for our Patreon community. Plus, by joining the Patreon community, you're going to be supporting this channel and supporting my work. So if you are still not yet a member, I definitely encourage you to check it out and join. Now, if you guys are interested in more content, more videos about the stuff that I talked about today, AI and things like that, check out the video in the corner right now. That's going to help you out.